It is such a pleasure to see you. I haven't seen you in quite some time. And so, welcome, welcome. Tell us who you are and where you're from and where you live.
Well, hi, Bonnie, and the world famous Bonnie Lang. I'm getting to talk to today, so that's pretty cool. But hey, my name's Nick Poloson, and I live in the San Antonio area. And I think what we're mostly going to talk about today is just some of my car racing endeavors. There's a lot of different things we can go through, but yeah, we'll just kind of start off with that. So
Yes.
I've lived in the area here in San Antonio for, man, let's see, 30 some years. But my car racing has always been a hobby, and my career. My undergraduate work was clinical laboratory science, and I've been in diagnostic medicine the entire time, even long enough to retire. So I had enough birthdays where I got to retire. And, but during that whole time, I've always just raced cars as a hobby. My passion is drag racing. So, I've been involved with some of the other motorsports as well, some of the circle track stuff, dirt track stuff, some of the asphalt track stuff. But my passion has always been drag racing and driving the cars drag racing. So it's been a lot of fun.
So is drag racing, is that a paying profession? How does that work?
It's drag racing is competition from a standing start. It is usually just two cars from a standing start. The standard distance is a quarter mile, and you go from 0 to however fast you can go in that quarter mile, and the first one to the finish line is the winner.
So do you have a pot that you have to like enter into? Or is it just that it's just a hobby?
Yeah, it's on weekends. No, it's a competition, and it's set up where both touring professionals and hobbyists such as myself can enter and compete. And the neat thing about drag racing, this is going way back when, Bonnie, the even while I was doing my undergraduate work in college, I went to the last 2 years, University of Florida. And in Gainesville, Florida, there is one of the premier NHRA drag strips in the country, located there in Gainesville. So they had an every Saturday night program, and every Saturday night I was out there racing my street car. And man, I paid for a lot of tuition and books that way too.
Oh, how cool is that? That's awesome. So where do you think it started? Your love for this? Like at what
Oh,
age?
I know where it started, and I had real good parents, and my dad would take me out to. Now I'm an only child, so when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I guess when it started, there was a couple of racetracks in the area we lived in, and we lived in basically the Chicago metropolitan area, just across the Indiana line. So still Metro Chicago, but we actually lived in Indiana, and there were two racetracks accessible in close proximity. One was a circle track, an asphalt circle track, and one was a drag strip. So, as a kid, I think my dad was interested too. So, he'd take me along to both of those tracks. And I just, gravitated more toward the drag racing than I did the circle track racing. The cars are prettier because at the local circle tracks, the guy with the most number of bumps and bruises on his car is the fast guy. And I like the cars better looking, so the drag racers sure brought that to a forefront for me. So yeah, as a young boy, spent a lot of time out at the drag strip. I started going with another friend of ours and helping him on the car, and it was just the typical hold a few wrenches and hand them to him. Ride to the racetrack with his family, and then once I got to the age where I could start driving, they did have a hobbyist class that you could enter into. So, I'd already started building some of my cars, some of my street cars, and they were fast enough where I could enter the program out there and started winning some money even back in the high school days.
That's incredible. It's so interesting just hearing you talk about this. It takes me back to memories of when my dad used to take us to the car shows and conventions, and you'd see these huge monster trucks and you could crawl inside the wheel and we take pictures, and then the races and the loud, it's just, yeah, what a
There we,
wonderful memory.
there we go. So anyways, just going forward from there, there's all kinds of different classes in drag racing, and a lot of them start with just dual purpose cars on the street, and you can go out and run them on the racetrack on the weekends, enter into the hobby program. But then there's true dedicated cars. So once I finished my undergraduate work, I started putting together my goal was to have a race car. So a real race car, not just a dual purpose street and, run it on the weekends. So as soon as I started out there in the real world with the job, I started putting together a race car, and race that. For that one progressed through a lot of different motor and transmission combinations, started getting faster and faster, and you just build from there. So I lived in South Florida for a while, and then my job transferred me to the New Orleans, Louisiana area. And there in New Orleans, it was a real hotbed for drag racing in the late 70s, early 80s, when we moved to that area of the country. And there were a lot of guys with a lot of nice cars. And I got right in the middle of all that. So we started racing. And I say we, my wife also, I built her a car to race. And she went through a number of cars as we got faster and faster. And we started actually running the big racing organization in the United States. The most well-known one is the NHRA, National Hot Rod Association. And they had several sanctioned events that had classes that we could run in. So at one point in time, I mean, we had 2 cars at a lot of racetracks for a lot of weekends, and we actually had some pretty good success.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. And I love that your wife does this with you.
Yeah, she really got into the racing, and she what's funny is she loves roses, and she always accused me, not true, but she always accused me of using secondhand parts on her car. So her cars were always called Secondhand Rose. So and we had a great an artist, a sign painter there in the New Orleans area, who really had fun lettering our cars. And he got into putting the Secondhand Rose name on several of our different cars and did a phenomenal job with the lettering.
I love it. So what do you find most rewarding about this?
I'm sorry, say that again, Bonnie.
What do you find most rewarding about this?
Oh, just most rewarding. I build all my cars, the engines, do all the mechanic work on the cars. And it's rewarding to have the cars perform well. Once you start going faster, and we'll talk about this in a sec, but once you start going faster, it's pretty stressful on the components. You've got to have good components. They have to work well together, and they have to be repeatable in some of the classes. The repeatability is very important. So it can't just go fast one time and then you have to spend 3 days rebuilding it. It's got to go fast, and then an hour later, it's got to go fast again. So, the reliability is important too. So the rewarding part is kind of twofold for me. Number one is being able on a mechanical level to put a car together that will repeat and be competitive. The other part is, man, I just love to drive these cars.
I love it. I've seen you too. Oh my gosh. It's amazing. This is just it's loud, there's energy, the crowd is excited, and the engines are revving, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, one of the as we progress forward, just I kept going faster and faster classes. Now in drag racing, there's 3 basic fuels that are available. Naturally, a lot of the cars just use gasoline. So a racing gas, but just gasoline, basically equivalent to what we run in our cars on the street. Then as you get a little bit faster, one of the available exotic fuels, that's what we call them, but available exotic fuel, the first step is alcohol. Now, this alcohol happens to be methanol, and it's what the Indy cars run on. Methanol you can make just a little bit more power with, and it allows you to start doing some extra things with the kind of motor, putting superchargers on them, trying to go a little bit faster, building boost, this kind of thing. You know, if you've watched any of that Street Outlaws things, there's even guys called Boosted and building boost, and it just allows you to make more power. So by using that first exotic fuel, alcohol, it allows you to just go a little bit faster. So I went through a period where I was partnered with another guy here in San Antonio on an alcohol dragster, and the class was actually called Top Alcohol Dragster. And we were pretty successful with that for a short period of time. And it was interesting to be involved with. Now, dragsters are the long, skinny things with the little bicycle looking front wheels. And that was fun, but I'm more of a short wheelbase, and you've seen them. You've been out there, the short wheelbase cars, the funny cars, the fuel altereds. So the alcohol dragster was a lot of fun, and we did well with it. I even helped another friend that had an alcohol dragster help tune his car. But you know, he started going to these other races, and they were called fuel altered races. Now, fuel altered was a class that years and years ago, short wheelbase cars, big motors in them, exotic fuel, and they were just a handful, an absolute handful. But everybody, when they came to the starting line and we're going to go down the racetrack, everybody was on the fence to watch these cars. So we had a friend in North Texas that remembered those old days, and he put together a class of modern fuel altered. So this other friend of mine that had another dragster, he went to a few of these races and observed them, and he kept coming home and going, well, we got to build one of these. We got to have one of these. So we kind of put our resources together and ended up building a car that's called a fuel altered. And man, we ran that for, I was thinking back, preparing for this interview, and we ran that car in several different configurations in the fuel altered organization for 10 years and had a lot of fun with it. It's basically the same kind in today's world for a fuel altered. It's the same chassis as a funny car. If anybody out there has seen any of the funny cars on TV, then it's the same chassis as a funny car, but not very much of a body on it. So you're sitting out in the open and sitting out in the wind and going fast. And it's just a ton of fun to drive.
Oh my gosh. Well, tell us, okay, so tell us, first of all, put us in the seat. Like when you're getting ready for a race, like what is your preparation in the days, leading up to it? You actually have a race coming up soon.
We do. A race coming up next weekend, so looking forward to it. But the preparation, you bring up a fantastic point, Bonnie. I've always told everybody that once you start going faster, and now I didn't get to the other exotic fuel, the very top level of exotic fuel is one called nitromethane. And it is just an interesting conglomeration of molecules in this, but it is essentially a rocket fuel. It is a monopropellant. It makes its own horsepower. You don't need to really have any air along with it. So you use a lot of fuel volume. You've heard the cars run on this nitromethane. It's just phenomenal. We call it a cackle. When they run, they just cackle and make noise, but nothing better than sitting behind that and enjoying it. But the preparation, I always tell everybody that the preparation for a good run in one of these cars, the fuel altered on nitromethane or the funny car on nitromethane, starts days beforehand. You have to know the racetrack you're going to, know the weather that they're planning on having for that weekend, because a lot of the adjustments you make to the car depend on what the potential weather is going to be, whether it's going to be very hot, very cold. You kind of make your preparations at home in the shop for that, what kind of weight you're going to use. In our case, we have a clutch, but it's a very adjustable clutch. So we'll put different weights on the clutch depending on what we expect the track conditions to be. Then we also need to know the racetrack itself. How smooth is it? How rough is it? Is there some available traction? Is it like a slip and slide in a kid's backyard at a birthday party? We just need to know what kind of traction is available, because that helps us set up the car. Then we start putting together, the final preparations in the fuel system, the mix of the fuel, how we do this. And at that point in time, we'll warm the car up, get it ready, and bring it up to the starting line. So that's all the prior preparation. But then to make a run in one of these cars, I'm going to talk specifically about the funny car now, because it's got the flip up body on it. You've seen them. And when we take it up and get ready, the first thing I do is put on a fire suit. Now, these fire suits, there's different ratings of fire suits for all kinds of different competitions. If you've seen, the NASCAR guys, they've got a fire suit on. You've seen some of the Formula One guys, they've got a fire suit on. Some of the IndyCar guys, they've got a fire suit on. There's different levels of certification for those fire suits, but by and far, the highest level of certification is the fire suit that we're required to wear in the funny cars. It just has the most protection. I always kid around and tell everybody you look like the Michelin Man when you put it on, because it's kind of thick, but it rightly so, because we need all that fire protection. So the first thing I'll do is get ready and put on the fire suit, and then get in the race car and get in the seat. There is a very, very strong, it's actually 7-point harness that we use nowadays. Used to be 5-point, but now it's a 7-point harness, and it all attaches to one buckle right in your lower chest area. But it holds you in very tight, and you want to be in very tight in these cars. One of the other things I wear, and you may have heard of these things, in the shoulder area, there's all kinds of head restraints. The initial one was called a Hans device, HANS, and it stands for head and neck system. But in the case of a frontal impact, it really protects your cervical spine area for any injury. So that's all part of the safety equipment I put on before I get in the car. Once I get in the car, the safety belt system attaches to that Hans device, keeps me good and tight inside the car. I'll check everything, make sure it's all tight, have the crew just double check things. I also have the crew, we have a safety system check. We go around, we have a fire bottle system on the car. So we'll make sure that the fire bottles are correctly armed so that I can set them off if I need to during the run. We also have, and you've seen them, we also have 2 parachutes on the back of the car. We have safety pins that we leave in them, so just kids won't walk by and pull the parachutes in the pit area. But we will take the safety pins out and do a safety check to make sure it's ready right before we start the car. And then we'll bring the car forward to the preparation area right in back of the starting line, and start the car, put the body down, and then they turn me loose for all the rest of that crazy stuff we're going to do.
I love it. Have you ever had a situation where you did have to use the extinguishers, or have you had a situation?
I've been pretty lucky. I've had one bad crash, and that was years ago. It was in one of the gasoline powered cars. That was in a very fast gasoline powered car. And there was a period of time where one of the transmission manufacturers was making some parts, and it was experimental. So we were getting a lot of experimental stuff. We had a great relationship with this transmission manufacturer, and he sent some parts. Well, they had mismachined a tiny little piece, and 5 of us in the country got these parts, and 5 of us crashed. So, it caused a problem right at the finish line for me. The car went barrel rolling, and it actually went over the guardrail. The racetrack we were at the very end of the racetrack had some piney woods, and I just went sailing upside down into the piney woods. But all the safety equipment did its job, and I was able to walk away from that with no injuries. The car was bent up and crushed up, but it absorbed all the kinetic energy of that crash just like it was supposed to, and all the safety equipment did its job. So yeah, I just built another car right after that. But no, the fire bottles, I got a funny story about that. with our fuel altered, we were in a race, and a lot of our races were at night because with the fuel altereds, part of the big thing for the show for the fans is for the nitro cars, the big header flames. They're not easy to see during the daytime, but at night, man, the header flames are just huge. So they ran a lot of our races at night for the benefit of the fans. So we were in the final round racing a good friend of ours, and I left the starting line, and I think I was ahead during this. A lot of times you're so strapped in, you can't see what's next to you. Your field of vision is really just in front of you. But I didn't see him, which means I was at least even with him. So, and I was just going down there. The car was making a good run, but all of a sudden I was in the left-hand lane, and it kind of started making a right turn and going right toward the center line. And I saw little pieces of like white something going over the top of my head. Well, a lot of times at night on these exotic fuels, you get frost on top of the motor, on top of the injector. So just with the fuel flow. So I just thought it was a couple little pieces of frost, but I had to end up, getting out of the throttle, and I had to stop, my part of the run. He ended up coming around me right at the finish line. He won the race. So I pull off at the very end of the racetrack, and they always have a fire crew down there too. So we've got a fireman standing there in his fire suit, and he's just, holding his axe in one hand and a fire extinguisher in the other hand, and just looking at the motor. And I still see little pieces of white something, flying in the air. So I got out of the car, and we had a bracket come unwelded on the car, and one little piece moved back. I'm talking just an eighth of an inch, just a tiny little bit, but it set off that fire bottle on that side. So that was all the fire retardant flying all over me.
Oh my gosh. And darn it, though, you lost the race too.
I know. But anyway, some of the, part of what you said to be prepared for this is some of the successes. And man, it's just talk about gratifying when you do have a big win. And I've had a lot of big wins over our racing career, and hopefully we're not done yet. But just some of the recent ones with the funny car, with the bucket list funny car, man, we've had some great wins over the past couple of seasons. We would run a series called Funny Car Chaos, and it was an 8-race series. Travel wise, from distance wise, our team would make 6 of those 8 races. And we had a year where we at least made the semifinals of every race, and we won 2 of them. One of the big wins was up in the Joplin, Missouri area. The track up there is called Mocan, and it's just a fun track to go to. Great owners, the fans, that they come out of the woodwork to come see the funny cars, and we even ran the fuel alters there too. So they just loved the program we put on. So we ended up just having the car to beat at that race. It's always fun out of 30, 35 funny cars where, we were the low ET, the top mile an hour, and we won the race. So that's running the table,
Incredible.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's having fun. We had a fast car, and we would always qualify in the top 8, even out of 50, 60 cars, we were almost always in the top 8, and which put us in the elite field. And it was fun to do that. Absolutely fun to do that. Now, thinking back a little bit further, back when we had the fuel altered, once a year, the promoter of the fuel altered organization, quite a promoter, but he would put together a program where it was just a wide open invitation countrywide, any fuel altered versus any pro mod. There's a class of cars called pro modified, and it's a pretty impressive class, but they are true door cars. And these guys got big motors in them. They run fast, and they're in an impressive class. And there's always a little bit of rivalry back and forth between like the pro mod guys, because they can run a bunch of different, what they call power adders, turbos, screw blowers, this kind of stuff, where we were kind of limited on what we could do from a rules package. But the promoter said, hey, once a year, I'm going to have just a wide open, okay, anybody who wants to come run this, it's fuel altereds versus pro mods. And we ran that, he ran that program 5 years. It was always at a racetrack just north of Fort Worth in Denton, Texas, and great racetrack. And it was accessible to us. So with the fuel altered, we ran that race every year. Now the program was set up where you would qualify, and then the eliminations ladder was set up, but it was always fuel altered versus pro mod, fuel altered versus pro mod. So we sent all those pro mods home. We punished all those guys. But one year, the way the format was there was a couple rounds of elimination. So you try to win that round of elimination. And then because there were so many cars on the property, after 2 rounds of elimination, straight squared up ladder eliminations, the fast 2 cars would come back for the final. So the one fast fuel altered and the one fast pro mod would be invited back for the final. And there was every year we always won both of our preliminary rounds, but we weren't quite the fastest fuel altered. Well, in 2017 we were, and we came back and we had to run a good friend of ours in a pro mod, and he was fast too, but we had a little bit of advantage on him. You know, our preliminary numbers were a little bit better than his number, and I still remember this. And you know, he went up, and the pro mod guys were famous for this. And we were standing there in the preparation area, we call them the staging lanes, right before we got into cars to make our run. And he came over and he said, "Look, how about splitting the purse? You know, take the winner and runner up, we'll put it together, then we'll split it." And I looked at him and I go, "No, just no, okay." I think we can do this. So he was kind of surprised with that, but I go, "Let's just race. Well, come on, let's get out there and race." Well, we beat him. And we had a great race. We beat him. It was a fantastic race. We were right together. It was everything the fans wanted to see. But yeah, we won the whole pro mod, fuel altered versus fuel altered, and got a lot of notoriety for that too.
Oh, that's incredible. Congratulations. Well, so you're traveling all over. And so in order to do this, like, do you have sponsors? And is it an expensive event? Because you got to have a trailer, I'm assuming, to tow the car. And
yeah, it is. Well, you know, Bonnie, you know from your music standpoint that the definition of a musician is somebody who loads $2,000 worth of gear in a $1,500 car and drives 500 miles to play for $100. So yeah, this is kind of the same thing. But yes, once we get to a certain level, and it's interesting, once we got to a certain level, even with the gasoline class cars, we had good looking cars. We had a lot of visibility, you know, we had a lot of success, and we started getting a lot of sponsor participation. Now, in the case, with my case as a hobbyist, it's always been parts or supplies. And, you know, so we'd get spark plugs, oil, tires, transmission parts, carburetors, this kind of thing that, yeah, you would have to buy otherwise, but we would have manufacturers send that to us to try and evaluate and give them feedback. So, you know, it helped control our costs. The winners' purses, yeah, that's great. Usually kind of paid for the travel expenses, you know, the gas and the fuel in the truck and stuff to get there. But yeah, you make the investment with the trailer and with the truck to transport things back and forth. You know that going in. So, you know, that's why a lot of times there's partners on cars. So one guy's got the truck, one guy's got the trailer, you get together on the car, the upkeep, this kind of stuff. We've had fantastic sponsor participation from a supply standpoint. So, you know, they don't just write us a check and say, go have fun. But hey, you guys need spark plugs? You know, here's a case. You guys need oil? Here's a 55-gallon drum. You know, put our name on your car, have our name on your t-shirts, that kind of thing. So, and it's all been very, very, very welcome and appreciated. We've had great sponsors doing that for us and still do.
So how long are you out? Are you basically out, you know, like every weekend, or how often are you racing?
Now at this level, for what I'm going to say we, so the guys that do it with our team, we've got 4 or 5 people that go to the races with us. I'm retired now, but most of these other guys, got a business card that says something other than racer on it. So, they've got the regular JOB thing. So here's how we set things up. We pick our races to go to that we can effectively drive to in maybe a day and a half of travel. So we can take off, and the races are usually qualify on Friday, race on Saturday. So you've got all day Sunday to drive back, and maybe even part of Monday. So as long as you can allocate, taking off maybe Wednesday night or Thursday morning and being gone till Sunday night, 5 or 6 times a year, that's our program.
Awesome. Oh, that's incredible. This is awesome. I love it. What's the number one question that people ask you as a race car driver?
Oh man, right away, Bonnie, what's it like to drive one of these cars? Okay. And it's, the description, it's really hard to come up with, but especially, if you get in let me start here. I still remember way back when, one of my wife's cars at the time was running on a 1/4 mile drag strip. It was running like mid 11-second times. Okay. So like 11.4, 11.5 seconds start to finish in the 1/4 mile. And I had a friend whose son, okay, one of these guys, right? And he had a friend that had a GTO that was a 9-second street car, and he had another friend that had a Chevelle that was a 9-second street car, all this kind of stuff. None of these guys ever had their car at the racetrack, so how do they know, right? But anyways, he was with us on a race weekend. So I put him in my wife's car, had a second seat in it, had a passenger seat in it. And I went down to the very end of the racetrack. We call it on the return road, but it's after you slow down, there's a road to come back to the pit area. And I just took him way down the end of the return road and just kind of squeezed into it a little bit in first and second gear. And then I looked over at him and go, now there's a mid 11-second car. How's that compare to your little boyfriend's 9-second GTO? And he just said, oh my God, nothing like it. So, now,
I love it.
Now I got to put that in perspective, because in today's world, man, there's a lot of fast production cars that are available to us, that are, as a fact, there's a lot of fast Corvettes out there, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so the perception is a little bit different nowadays. But in preparing to drive one of the exotic fueled cars, the nitromethane, the fuel altered, or the funny car, the perception is we had a G meter on we had a data recorder, and we actually had a G meter on the fuel altered, and leaving the starting line. So, from the dead start, accelerating, we would actually get to 4.5 Gs in acceleration. And that's pretty awesome. Okay. It's still accelerating about 1.5 G at the finish line. So it's still got you set back pretty good. But then when I pull both parachutes and they hit, it's -4 Gs deacceleration. So, it puts you right. And that's why you got to be strapped in pretty hard, because you go through the steering wheel if you're not strapped in good. So, but the sensation, we can have a little fun here, can't we?
Yes.
All right. Just, hopefully it's all kind of adults listening to this, but the sensation, I heard this a while back, and it's what I use all the time. And, for the funny car, okay, it's got all this nitro nuclear fission going on. It's cackling. It's crazy. I leave the starting line. It's got flames over the roof and all that. And everybody says, what's it like to drive a car like that? I said, well, it's kind of like the first time you had sex. It's over with pretty quick. You're not quite sure what happened, but you want to do it again.
I love it. It's amazing.
So that's fun, but it's kind of a description. What they have found, now we're talking about the different Gforces and stuff. And in a drag racing car like this, the funny cars, the dragsters, the driver's basically sitting upright, okay? And all the G forces are lateral, so they're coming at you from like the chest area, and you're strapped in pretty good. And science has shown that the human body can withstand those G forces for a short period of time. You know, we're in the 3, 4, or 5 second range for those G forces, and there's no negative. The G forces you hear about the pilots doing when the pilots, you know, make the big corners, and the G forces are linear like that. They're trying to drain the blood from the pilot's head and this kind of thing. That's totally different. So, you know, 4 and 5 G forces there. That's why they have to have the G suits on to keep the blood up in their head area, this kind of stuff. But for us, drag racing, you know, you feel the G forces, they're definitely there. In the fuel altered, there was a time where we had the car when it first leaves the starting line, and we get times for the first 60 feet. That's, for some reason or other, that became a standard, not 50 feet, but 60 feet. And they give us a time for our 60 foot from the starting line to there. So anyways, we were just under 1 second. So we were going like 0.97, 0.98 of a second, 60 foot times. And I didn't have any more head support than the Hans device, but the Hans device is really for forward motion. It's not for backward motion. But then, you know, I was pretty well in the roll cage and stuff, so I wasn't having any problems. Well, we made one little change on the tune-up of the car, and it started even going faster in that 60 foot time. So it was leaving the starting line even harder. And think about it, Bonnie, when you sit here and look around, you got a pretty good field of vision, right? Your peripheral vision, you can see stuff.
Right.
But when you're in that car strapped in, you've got the helmet on, the helmets are pretty padded. You know, you've only got a very small field of vision out here. And if your head moves at all, you lose the horizon, or you lose a lot of vision. So we made this change to the car, and I went up there and left the starting line. Well, my neck muscles, that was beyond the limit of my neck muscles. My head went back on the roll cage, and all I could see was birds, sky. You know, I lost the racetrack. The car was doing a nice wheel stand, but I couldn't see where I was. So I had to lift off the throttle. I had to, stop that run. And we had to come back, and they make a safety piece of equipment, a chin strap that just bolts to your helmet and bolts to all the safety harnesses that you got on. And I had to start using the chin strap, and it became an essential piece of our safety equipment.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's just incredible. I didn't know any of this. It's just, you go and you see a race and it's amazing. And there's so much, just adrenaline and, but to know all this is incredible. Thank you. What do you want listeners to know most about your path and your purpose?
About what, Bonnie? I didn't quite hear.
About your path and your purpose.
Oh, path and purpose. Man, my path right now is to just continue to have fun. Like I said earlier, I had a fantastic career. I spent my entire career in diagnostic medicine. I've got several specialties, and I just had a great career path. The racing and music has always been a hobby for me, and now it's just both of those things are still a hobby, but they've come a little bit more to the forefront. Man, I still keep all my certifications current, so just in case I got to go back to work. But no, it's just great. My path forward is to we've got several races coming up. We've got I can't announce anything yet, but we got some cool things coming up over the next couple of weeks. So social media, especially my Facebook page, which is just Nick Poloson, but I use it for mostly the racing and the music stuff that I do. But keep track of that, because we're going to have some new neat things that will be part of the package here for the rest of 2022. We just spent yesterday putting a lot of that together, and so it'll be just a lot of fun. So anyways, but the rest of the path forward is to just the group that we race with, the friends that we've made through this. Once you get to this level, having a funny car, running a nitro car. It's a pretty small community and it's really great people. So we just have fun seeing each other. And it's like I said, 6 times a year, we get to spend the weekend with really good friends. It's all family oriented. So, the families are there, the kids are there. We just have a blast. And I look forward to continuing that for, the next, I'm not even going to say short period of time, just the next period of time that I can keep doing it.
I love it. So if somebody wanted to do this, start racing, what would you recommend?
Here's what I recommend. Just read all you can. Okay. And in today's environment with the internet, there is so much stuff out there that you can learn about. That wasn't available back when we were started. I mean, it was just Hot Rod Magazine and Carcraft Magazine, and going to the races and talking to the other guys who had some experience, and they go, don't do this because it'll blow up. Okay. So, that's kind of how you learn back then. But in today's world, if somebody would like to, start the pathway of, and I'm talking specifically drag racing now, because that is what I'm familiar with. But man, just start going to the racetrack. There's a lot of racetracks that have a Saturday night program, a Wednesday night program. There's a lot of to get kids off the street. There's a lot of racetracks that do a Wednesday or Friday night program where you can go out and run your car for like $10. Okay, gets you in the gate. You've got all the safety equipment there. Just think about this is one. And I don't want to say passion of mine, but all this stuff that we've seen about the street racing on TV, it's a big thing. Okay. And you also see them have big crashes. So, when they're out there running on the street, they've got people standing right there. They've got telephone poles, they've got ditches. If something does go wrong, it goes wrong big time. Okay. Where if you're at a racetrack, you've got nice guardrails. It keeps the energy basically on the racetrack. Sure, you may bend up a little sheet metal or something on the car, but you're going to walk away and you won't hurt anybody else. Yeah. So, that's just kind of one of my pet peeves. So go to the racetrack and start talking to people. Work on your car. In today's world, there's a lot of fast cars that are available. And you can have dual purpose cars, run it at the track, still drive it back and forth to work. If you want to progress beyond that, start sweeping floors or start cleaning parts for one of the bigger teams around. Just talk to that person and say, hey, I want to get involved. Can I come just empty the oil drum when you go to the races? And just start there. They're not going to let you touch any of the critical stuff at first until they find out that you're confident, competent, and can do these things. And that's just how you get involved. And pretty soon, all of a sudden, you're doing the major stuff on the car. And pretty soon, they say, you got any aspirations to drive one of these things? I'm getting kind of old, and it could all grow from there.
Oh, that's incredible. Now, so people can actually come and see you, and if they're a musician, or they don't even really have to be a musician, if they like to just play a little guitar or sing, where can they find you?
Man, I'm a hobbyist, and you and I go to a lot of the same places, Bonnie, because I'm a Bonnie Lang fan. I really enjoy your shows, but from a routine basis, I enjoy doing the open mics in the area. So I follow the Hill Country Open Mic Facebook page, and I find out where the open mics are. I host one at Vine in the Village there in Bulverde, and it's just become a phenomenal Thursday night. Mine is on Thursday nights from 6:30 to 9 o'clock. We get just a phenomenal group of musicians, and everybody has a good time. You're very familiar with the vibe at Vine in the Village because you play there a lot. Oh yeah, it's just fantastic. So that's my routine every Thursday night. And then I try to play now, the person I'm married to said I can only do this a few nights a week. So anyway, so I try to do one or two other open mics and experiment with new ones that I haven't been to, because then you meet other cool people and just get out there and have a good time. I practice a lot. So because I enjoy just the activity of playing guitar and learning new songs. So it's fun for me.
Is there anything else that you want to share that I didn't talk about?
Now, just again, the places to look for the races that we're going to go to is funnycarchaos.com. That is the major sanctioning organization that we follow, that we take the cars to. There's also going to be some other things that in a very short, like I said, very short period of time, we're going to have a couple more neat things. So my Facebook page, just Nick Poloson, and I try to put it on there to let you know what we're going to do from the car racing standpoint. And I've got all my music stuff on there as well. So Bonnie, thank you so much for having me on as a guest.
It has been such a pleasure. I've loved this. This is amazing. We're going to come see you again. I'm excited. I'm going to make sure. Actually, I will have your information in the show notes. So if anyone's driving, listening to this, they can actually go look at it in the show notes later. So yes,
Cool.
so they can come see you. Yes. Well, thank you again. You're amazing.
Well, I appreciate it, Bonnie, and I'll look forward to seeing you real soon.